Good morning. I welcome you all to NPTEL online certification course on the course title Soft Skills. You have been listening to a series of lectures, and presently we are dealing with writing skills. Since all of you are going to compete and to survive in a professional world, writing has its own importance. As a professional who has to play his part in different ways, one has to arm oneself with the nuances of writing skills. In the previous lecture, we talked about the importance of writing skills and how one can use language in order to make things explicit and not implicit in a business world. Since your roles in a business world will be different, you will come across different writing tasks. You might at times be thinking, does writing have an importance in today's digital world? Yes, of course. Whether you are doing things on a computer, but whatever message you are communicating in a written form, it has to be written. Today we are going to talk about the various ways you have to show your writing skills while writing different documents. While doing with all these documents, you have to take into consideration the standards of a written document, keeping into consideration the practices allowed in your organization. Now, what are the types of this business writing, and what should you do to make yourself efficient at writing these documents? The first in this category is business letters. You are to sell things, you are to buy things, you are to order for things, you are to also remind people of their payments if due. So, all these will come under business letters. Now, whenever we talk about letter, on most of the occasions, the youngsters especially, they feel threatened as how to write a business letter. A business letter is actually a specific sort of letter writing, totally different from other forms of writing, since it has got a professional tone, it has got a different format, and since you have to write for different occasions, we will have a separate discussion on business letters. Next comes reports. Report nowadays has become very important from the organization's point of view as well as from the employee's point of view. Now, you will also have to come across different sorts of reports that, depending upon the need of the organization, you may have to write. Sometimes you might be thinking, will you be asked to write a report? You never know, because as you travel in the world of business, as you work in a business world, depending upon your responsibilities and changing times, you may at times have to write different things for different people, and since the audiences are different, naturally you will have to take due care of the tone that will be there in these business documents. We shall have a deliberate discussion on reports. Next comes memos, which are very common in everyday organization. We shall also have a talk on memo. Today we will be talking about the short reports or the short business communications that you come across every day in your organization. Then comes letter report, then there is circular, then we have electronic mails. Nowadays many people at times wonder in an age of mail or electronic mail, do we really require to write? Yes, of course, mails cannot serve all purposes, varying upon situations and varying upon people also, because when you deal with people in a professional world, people are different as they are different in their personal world also, and you never know what sort of writing they actually prefer. Not all of them will be preferring the electronic mail, hence, and of course, mails cannot serve every purpose. We shall also throw light on how mails should be written. Then comes technical proposal that you also have to write, and then a research paper. In today's talks, we shall be focusing, as I said earlier, on smaller business communication, and the first and the foremost is a memo. Now, you might have heard the term memo from many people, but then you must know what actually is a memo. The word memo itself becomes threatening at times, though this is not the case. Memo is actually a short piece of writing, and this memo goes only in an organization. That means it is circulated among the members of the organization. That is why we call it inter-office memorandum. It can actually be understood as a piece of official as well as business writing, which is circulated within the organization with the members of the organization, and since it is within the organization, it is not as formal as other forms of writing. The tone of a memo is informal. It is informal in nature, it is short in nature, and that is why we also call it inter-office memorandum. Now, here a point of caution that we have to note is that a short memo and a memo report, there are some differences. When a memo is written in the form of a report, it becomes a memo report. Now, the question is, what actually has a memo to do? What are the functions of a memo? Since memo, as all other forms of communication which actually make our day-to-day business easier, we have to understand that it plays a vital role in the smooth flow of communication. Since the aim of a memo also is to communicate, it also assists, it also helps in creating a sound business relationship. Now, who should write a memo and to whom? Now, though as we said earlier, the name of the memo makes people threatened. We have heard people saying, he has got a memo. Now, when they say like this, they actually mean that perhaps there is some sort of anger, there is some sort of negativity involved with a memo, though this is not the case. At times, of course, it may actually be served just to warn employees, but not in all the situations memo is a warning or a threatening letter. Memo has different purposes. Memos can confirm. Now, what do memos confirm? Suppose you are in an organization and you want to know about the update or the progress of a previous meeting or a previous discussion or a previous, say, business dealing, that can be confirmed through a memo. So, the first task of a memo is to confirm. It actually confirms about the happenings of a meeting or the developments of a meeting. A memo can also suggest. When you work in an organization, you will find that at times there are certain conditions, certain circumstances where things come to a deadlock. and we actually want to know what should be done at this juncture. It is the memo that can suggest, that can actually provide some action which can be taken, because memo does not confine only to the purpose of threatening, it also has the purpose of informing. Sometimes, suppose things go wrong, when we are in an organization, things may go wrong. So, that time also a memo has the purpose to explain why it went wrong, and sometimes when this explanation is a longer one, it can be written in the form of a report, which we call a memo report. Memos also announce some new policies, some new product that you are going to launch, some new activities that you want to start, some new, say, product which you also want to develop in your own organization. Now, all these things can be announced through a memo. Suppose there has been a new hike, suppose there has been an enhancement in the DA, suppose there has been a change in the policy. These things can be explained and announced through a memo. Memos report also, as I said, when you are not clear about a particular piece of information and you want to know, or others want to know, that also can be provided with the help of a memo. But then memo also has a purpose of warning. All of us are human beings. At times you find it is very difficult when a critical situation comes. Say, for example, many people come late to their offices. Many people actually misuse the official gadgets. Many people at times misuse the official facilities provided to them. Say, for example, photocopier. At times they are also tempted to have so many papers photocopied from their official photocopier. Now, during these situations, as the head, as the manager, or as in a position where you feel that these things can be stopped or restricted, you decide to serve a memo, because every now and then you cannot talk to the people, and there are certain things also which cannot be talked face to face. That is why with the help of a memo we may warn, or people may be warned. But since it is informal, the tone will not be that offending. But remember one thing, while you are writing a memo, please draft a memo in such a fashion that the receivers do not have to take the pain to give you a phone call just to know about the memo or about the language. Meaning thereby, what I am focusing is, the language is very important. What should be the language of a memo and how a memo should be structured. A memo is just like a letter, but then there are certain differences. What are these differences? A memo does not have any salutation. It is not written the way a letter is written. We shall see when we will talk about the format of a letter. You will find how important it is to write the salutation, the complimentary clause. But then in memo you do not need to give a salutation or a complimentary clause. It is actually direct. It is direct, though yet it is informal, and hence what needs to be done is, you actually, as the writer of the memo, you have to write only your name at the end of the memo. Of course, memo has to be short, but it has to be very specific. It has to be to the point, and the writer's name is written on the right hand side at the end of the message. And since in many situations we have seen, because every organization has its own style of writing a memo, you will find that many organizations have got a memo format as well, and on that memo format the letterhead is already placed in the middle, at the top middle, and then they will have the to and from facility, which is also be written. All you need to do is, you are simply to fill out. So memo has a format, and we will see the format, but remember, the tone has to be very conversational and it has to be very informal. Now, talking about the format of a memo, what should be there in the format of a memo? A memo if it is a printed memo, you will find that it will have a letterhead. By letterhead I mean the name of the organization, which will be there in the top center, and below that it will have to and from on the left hand side. So when you write to, actually you have the audience. We have talked in the previous lecture that you need to understand the background of the audience. Here when you are serving a memo or when you are writing a memo, you know for whom you are writing. So we have a facility of to here in the memo format. So to, sometimes it is to all employees, sometimes it is to employees of the labor section, sometimes it is employees of the academic section, sometimes it is employees of the finance section. So depending upon, because it varies from need to need. So in to we will write the people whom we are addressing. Then from is from you only, because you, if you are writing naturally from, but then here you will write your designation. You will not write your name, you will write your designation. Suppose you are finance manager, suppose you are dean finance, suppose you are dean administration, suppose you are director, suppose you are director of a particular section. So you only have to write your designation. Next comes the right hand side. What should be written on the right hand side? Reference and date. You write the day, reference and the date on the right hand side, because whenever we write a memo, either we are writing it for the first time or we are writing in response to an earlier memo which has been received. Now the reference number is to be given, because it is a continuous process of sending and receiving information. That is why you need to write the reference number and the date. Next to that will be the subject line. It is very important that you write the subject line, and the subject line is to be written in the middle. So nowadays people are very busy indeed. You will find yourself, you do not have much time at your disposal. So now when a memo comes, of course, though at times it appears it is threatening, but you would like to know what is it all about. People are losing patience like anything. They cannot read the entire content. So sometimes or the other, because if they might have attended a previous meeting, or they might have discussed previously with their bosses or whatsoever. So by the reference, by the subject, they would come to know what this memo is all about. That is why you need to make the subject line very explicit, and next to the subject line you start. But while you start, you will start without any salutation. You will straight away come to the point, and then you will start. What is there? I mean, when you start in the very first line, you will perhaps tell about the problem. You will actually express the problem, and then in the lines to come, you will be talking about you will be explaining the problem, but not explaining in a very longer way. It will be in a very shorter way, and then what you want, why you are giving this memo, that also has to be given very succinctly, very clearly. And towards the end, once you have completed the memo, you will put your name, because you are the person who has actually circulated this memo. And after that, if you want to circulate it, you want to give a copy of it to your boss, naturally you will write CC at the end on the left hand side. Now this is the format. Of course, having this format in mind, you might be very curious to know how can we write, because I have been talking a lot about the language part, the tone part. The tone has to be friendly, the tone has to be informal, yet there is some amount of formality. That is why let us see a sample memo. Now if you have a look at it, you will find that on the top center, as I said, the name of the organization is written. Here comes the name of the organization, and you will find when we come down, as I said, it will start not with an inside address, but it will have a to and from facility, to all heads. This is actually addressed to all heads. And then who is the writer? The writer here is the dean admission. Of course, when it is from the dean admission, naturally he will be talking about the admission procedure or something with subject to the admission. On the right hand side, as you see, this is the reference. This actually means from I mean, this is the reference letter, reference number, and then the date is there. Next to that, as I said in the middle, it is actually the subject. Nowadays, even though we are living in a digital world, yet we have to draft a memo, even though it may be circulated through an electronic mail, no problem. But then this memo should tell what it is all about. Now let us have a look at the language. We said that the language will be very informal. So it begins with, it has been observed. I mean, when the writer of this memo says it has been observed, he uses a language which is actually have a sort of neutrality. But at the same time, as we proceed, he says, campus placement in our institution has been dissatisfactory. I mean, he's talking about the problem. He's talking about the problem of admission. This has badly affected the admission process for the last 2 years. I mean, he's taking all the heads into confidence, and then the tone, it is high time we realized. Now look at the language. It is high time we realized. I mean, the sender of this memo is actually making a rapport with all these people, because with their cooperation only this thing can be overcome. In the next line he says, I would like to propose faculty development training for all departments. And then he informs, he instructs and says, send 2 training proposals and names of the experts from each area. I would like to meet. Now see the tone. I would like to meet all the department heads before giving shape to the training program. Now this is actually a sample memo. But this is a sample memo alone. You can also draft several memos, and you will find, depending upon the need, as I said, depending upon the exigency of the situation, you will be able to draft several other memos with several other functions. And here towards the end, you will find it is this memo has been circulated by the Dean Admission, and his name is there. This is Anurag Joshi, or whatsoever may be the name. But then, since he wants that this information should be in the record, that is why he also marks a copy to the Dean Academics. He may also mark a copy to the Dean Placements as well. Now this is a sample memo, and I hope this sample memo will tell you how to draft other memos with other functions. Now at times, as I have said, since needs are different, purposes are different, naturally the writing also will be different, and writing will have a different sort of format also. Sometimes we have a memo report and a letter report. These are actually the 2 short versions of a report. We shall discuss in detail about the formal reports. Here we are simply talking about the informal report, and what is the degree of informality you might have observed in the memo that I have shown you. Now let us also talk about sometimes, because we say sometimes we need some more information. Suppose we want some officer to report us about a particular event or about a particular happening, but then in a very short manner. So he is expected to write a letter report. Now what is a letter report? It is a report, of course, but a letter, as the term itself says, letter report, a letter report for that matter will be in the form of a letter, my dear friends. Now what will be content of this letter report? A letter of report, though it will be written in a business letter format, naturally it will have a sort of informality but yet formality, and it can be circulated both inside and outside the organization. Here you have some scope, and the scope is that you will have some room here, some place where you can give the details. That is why, since it is in the form of a report, it may have an introductory paragraph. It also may have some sort of discussion, and if the need be, you may provide also little bit of illustrations. But then remember, that it should not have all the formalities that are there in a formal report, say of a bigger nature, say of a interpretive nature. That is why when you are going to write a letter report, you are going to report to your next or to your immediate boss, say about a conference that you participated in, about the training program. Say for example, previously we have talked about providing a faculty development training, and you are to report, you are to provide the report how this faculty development program went off well. So you can take this here as a letter report, and you can narrate everything, you can discuss everything in the form of a letter report. Now while doing so, please remember that it also has a format like that of a memo. But now where is the difference? It will also have a letterhead, and this letterhead will be just in the middle on the top. It will have a date and the inside address. Now the question is, since it is in the form of a letter, it will have an inside address. You have to remember this. It will have an inside address. And while doing so, again, you know, many organizations have their different ways of letter writing. We shall discuss in detail how, but remember, you have to conform yourself to the practice that is allowed in a particular organization. Some organizations may go for a general style of letter writing. Some may insist on the full block format, which we shall discuss in our next lectures when we talk about the business letters. Next to the inside address, here again the subject is very important. You need to write the subject, and then the salutation. I mean, salutation also has to be very formal. You know, there is no informality here. Here it will be like as you write in other letters, dear sir. So the salutation will be salutation, and then comes the main body. Actually, the main body of a letter report, what it will do is, it will have all the requisites of a letter but in short. Maybe it may have 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. So it will have an introductory paragraph, and after that you may straightway come to the main body. In the main body, just after the salutation, in the main body of this letter report, you will find that you will give a little bit of introduction and then findings. Suppose faculty development program was organized. Now what were the results? So these results you will show in the finding, and next to that this should end as a letter, and it will have a complimentary clause. I mean, before you close a letter, there has to be a complimentary clause where you say thanking you, yours faithfully, yours sincerely, yours truly. We'll see, but that also varies depending upon your nature with the person to whom you are addressing. And towards the end, your signature line is there. So put your signature, and in case you want to enclose some other documents, please mention enclosures. And when you mention enclosures, also mention the number of pages that you have, because sometimes you may find to your utter surprise that you had enclosed but it is not there. Sometimes you didn't enclose yet it is there. Actually, the recipient of your letter report would like to know that the findings which he has made, do they have some evidence to it, and that is why we enclose some enclosures. Now you also might be eager to know what are the differences between a letter report and a memo report, because through memos, as I have said, there also you can explain, there also you can inform, there also you can talk about a particular situation. Now a letter report, you will find it is longer than a memo. A memo is very short because it is informal. A letter report is a bit longer. Now the length, that is one very important thing. Suppose if a memo is 1 page, a letter can be of 2 page. I mean letter report, it can be of 2 page. Sometimes depending upon and varying according to the needs of the situation, it may go up to 3 pages also. But remember, it should not be that long because it has a tag like report. Because when we talk about the report, as we'll discuss in the lecture on report, we will see that in reports there is ample scope for interpretation, and you also will find that you have evidences there to support your findings. Now, a letter report is less informal. It is not as formal as a report, but if we compare it with a memo, it will be less informal. And then it can be circulated both inside the organization and also outside the organization. It is not confined only within the organization. That is why we do not call it inter-office memorandum. We call it a letter report. Sometimes it may also be circulated outside the organization. And then the other difference that is there between a memo and a letter report is a complementary clause. Since it is drafted according to the nature of a letter, it will have a complementary clause. Next to that, we also come across from time to time the word circular. I mean, you have heard many people saying that the circular has already come and you need to look at the circular. Now, what is this circular about? How is this different from memo and a letter report? A circular also is a business writing, but then it is circulated once again in the organization. It is within the organization. Since it is within the organization, naturally it will talk about some policy decisions. It will talk about some new products. Sometimes a circular may also be aimed at creating a sort of awareness. That is why it may be written in a language that is not so harsh, a language that is informal yet formal, and hence a circular, because you are going, depending upon, again, circular will have also different kinds, we will see. So, circulars actually serve the purpose, the basic purpose of every circular is to inform, is to create an awareness, among people. Now, it also aims at making matters of general interest, because I have said that it may go outside also, circular may go outside also. So, when it goes outside, say for example, you are in an organization, of course, but it is an organization which may be of interest to general public also. Now, in this case, people would like to know about the new policies, about the new programs. That is why when you are going to write a circular, you are to think whether a circular is needed or a memo is needed. Now, a memo is circulated when the number of people is only within the organization. Sometimes a memo may also be between two people, depending upon the need. But when you are actually going to address or you are going to inform larger audience, and that also outside, naturally you will go for a circular. Now, what are the types of circular? Circular may be informative, as I said, and if it is an informative circular, it will be very factual. It will have an introduction, it will have maybe it can have 3 paragraphs. In one, it will talk about the introduction, then it will talk about the detail, about the matter that you are going to raise, and then the information has to be relevant. That is why when circulars come, people become very conscious. What is this circular about? Naturally it is going to say something new. Then comes public circular. Naturally, this public circular is matters of general awareness, say a general body, say the body of teachers. Now, there may be teachers forums that also wants to inform all the teachers, say spread out in different areas. Suppose it is about the child labor policy, suppose it is also about the exploitation and all. Naturally, it will come from the top and it may be going to several state bodies and all. That is why when you are going to provide or write or draft a public circular, you are to see that the audience here may be larger and they are spread out in different categories. Naturally, circulars may not be that longer unless and until the need be. Then sometimes if you are working in an organization and there is a collaboration between two organizations, there are so many shareholders, there are so many other stakeholders. So any information about the general interest of all these people or of the company partners and all, that will come under partnership and company circular. And of course, you at this stage may not require to draft a circular for partnership and companies. What is of utmost importance is official circular. Most of you working in the organizations will feel the need of having official circular, and this official circular, of course, it will be a bit longer. It may be longer because it covers a wide audience, and then you also have to say it goes to wider population. Since it goes to wider population, every word that you are going to choose there and you are going to select should be very careful. After very careful consideration, this official circular has to be drafted. And when you draft the circular, what is of importance is before you send it, see to it. The revision part is very important. Of course, for all other business writings, revision is very important because since it goes to so many people, it may also have a sort of a reputation involved into it, and you are writing from an organization or you are writing from an institution. So the reputation of the institution is also at stake if you have had certain incorrect sentences, spelling lapses, because we are today living in an age where we are guided and where we are also affected by the spellings we come across through different ways that we adopt for communicating, and hence you need to be very careful while you are drafting a circular. See to it that it is grammatically correct. See that the notions of appropriateness. Also see the notion of dividing your sentences, and what is important is to see whether what you have wanted to say has been said or not. Having done all these practices, now your circular is ready, and give when you are writing a circular, once again here in the top center you will write the name of the organization, and below that you will write the circular, and then you will write what is the content of the circular, and below that you will put your signature. Now when you have tried all these, you are now ready to draft a circular and to send it. But before sending it, please revise and see that if there are unnecessary words, delete them. If there are some incorrect spellings, please try to make it correct, and see that sentences are not that cumbersome, sentences are not that foggy, rather sentences are very smooth, and it can help in the smooth flow of the passage of information and communication as well. With all these things in your mind, I think you are ready to draft various types of business writings. In the next lecture, we shall be talking about some other writings which are in our day-to-day very important, and we need to draft them very carefully. Thank you very much.